Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Silver Years. My name is DK, and I'm very happy to be here, and I humbly thank you for joining me. Today, I'd like to talk about capitalism, its true cost, and what sustains it. And I'm not talking about the glorified version of capitalism, where we're told it's the best thing since sliced bread, as if capitalism is what's made this country great and every American rich. With the inflationary economic shifts and social unrest dominating the collective atmosphere these days, we're starting to see that the business model of capitalism isn't what it's cracked up to be, and how it may soon become a thing of the past. I think those of us living the silver years were heavily inculcated with the virtues of capitalism as an economic model throughout our school system education, without ever really understanding what it meant, without really understanding what truly sustained it. We were repeatedly told it was the equal opportunity, free market system that would make us rich if we worked hard enough, as if capitalism combined with workaholism was going to elevate us above the rest of the world in economic greatness. Any other social economic model was dismissed as inferior. Everyone could live the American dream when capitalism was running the game, and we all blindly believed it while working ourselves to death to prove it. Did you get that message growing up too? What I find interesting is how the younger generations don't seem to have the same programming, the same economic mindset. In other words, they don't have the same blind devotion to the concept of capitalism as the older generations because their education, observations, and experiences have shown them a different reality altogether. There are many reasons for that, but I suspect a big one is that our younger generations have seen over the last several decades how capitalism, along with the corporate business model, have betrayed the have betrayed the trust of their hardworking parents and stripped them of financial security while simultaneously disrupting their families, destabilizing their home lives. They've experienced the fallout from the shadow side of capitalism. And what is the shadow side of capitalism? Because this is the part they left out while glorifying it. The shadow side is rooted in whose work really sustains it. It's rooted in who really works to make it work by providing the stable foundation necessary for capitalism to thrive. In a nutshell, capitalism cannot sustain itself without free labor. Capitalism could never succeed without unpaid labor as its foundation. And the bulk of that unpaid labor has historically come from women. Now, this isn't meant to exclude men or to say that men are not involved at all here, because they are. But historically speaking, the bulk of that unpaid labor has come from women. It wouldn't be far fetched to say that capitalism is as illusionary as the business models of socialism, fascism, and even communism. And the cost to sustain it has long exceeded its benefits, no matter what economists and bureaucrats try to convince us of. So let's take a closer look at how this business model, called capitalism, has been designed to be supported by unpaid labor. And maybe a good place to start is considering the unpaid intern and the corporate job market. You know, how the big corporations think nothing of taking advantage of the free labor from an unpaid intern. An unpaid intern who offers up their hard work for free, hoping that down the road they'll eventually get paid what their work is worth. kind of like a dangled dollar on a carrot stick that's always beyond reach, because that's how it's been for generations of women in this country as they work themselves to the bone trying to prop up a system that not only doesn't support and care about them, but is instead designed to drain them of their life force in every possible way. This energetic draining creates what? Burnout. And burnout takes you to broke. Burnout is also a business model that's used to support capitalism, and a very profitable business strategy at that, because as long as you're exhausted, you won't question anything or fight back. You just keep functioning, often on autopilot. And our capitalistic world loves a woman who keeps functioning when she's exhausted. Can you relate to this? I can, because that was sadly my life for more decades than I care to admit. Women have been shamed and trained to overperform for little to no cost, lest they be deemed lazy or even, believe it or not, a gold digger. They're expected to hold up the entire world for free, quietly, and without complaint. It is our women who have provided the free labor that keeps everyone else productive, because women are the unpaid workforce that keeps the paid workforce working. Women are the foundation. Women are the glue. And the unpaid labor of women is the foundation that keeps capitalism relevant. Yet, how many times have you heard the old timers yuck on about the little woman at home who needs to earn her keep, as if her working contribution at home was of little value or worth? As if earning a paycheck in the corporate workforce was the only way to earn one's keep, the only way to create value. The little woman who has to earn her keep if she's going to live the cushy life of staying at home all day doing nothing, I guess, like Peg Bundy, even when she's given birth to the next generation's workforce and is expected to raise it. In today's world, the little woman is expected to do all the jobs of an entire village and earn a paycheck too. And women are burned out. They're quietly quitting. They're done. The business model of capitalism is unsustainable without the unpaid labor required to hold it together. So let's take a look at how Ms. Holly on Instagram lays it out for us, because she's done a fantastic job of comparing the unpaid duties of a woman at home with the paid duties of a job in the village. When I stumbled upon her post, I realized I couldn't have put it better. So credit to Ms. Holly for this next little part. Okay, first one. If pregnancy isn't a job, explain surrogacy. If childcare isn't a job, explain daycare and nannies. If cooking's not a job, explain professional chefs and at-home private chefs. If cleaning's not a job, explain home cleaners and all the hospitality workers. If managing a household isn't a job, explain property managers. If planning events, birthdays, and holidays isn't a job, explain event planners. If having emotional capacity isn't a job, explain therapists and counselors. If having a peaceful home isn't a job, explain luxury hotels and spas. If remembering every tiny little detail involved with something like appointments, forms, medications, and anything like that isn't a job, then explain project managers and why they have a whole team of people to help them. If managing multiple schedules isn't a job, then explain executive assistants and operations managers. If teaching life skills, creativity, and knowledge isn't a job, explain teachers. If taking care of somebody when they're sick isn't a job, then explain doctors, nurses, and an entire hospital staff. If making sure you have everything you need to enjoy a meal, such as setting the table and making sure you have something to drink, doing the dishes, and clearing the table, isn't a job, then explain the entire restaurant hospitality industry. If intimacy isn't a job, then explain the entire adult entertainment industry. If maintaining your weight was so easy, then explain all of the personal trainers, fitness coaches, and dietitians. If maintaining your looks and appearance was so easy, then explain all of the cosmetologists, nail techs, estheticians, makeup artists, and stylists. When the exact same tasks are performed professionally, they suddenly become skilled labor with salaries, certifications, contracts, and hourly rates. Yet married women are still expected to do the majority of these tasks alone, while many of them maintain a full-time job as well. Imagine how easy it would be if having one job was the only thing you have to focus on. Again, thank you, Miss Holly. I couldn't have said it better. Now, I've worked this list as unpaid labor for years, and as I suspect many of you have also. Burnout was my constant companion for decades, and it took me many years to decompress from the constant stress of maintaining the unpaid standard of what was expected from me. And yes, it impacted my financial health and my physical health in detrimental ways because burnout takes you to broke. If capitalism had to pay for every free service that women provide, it would collapse tomorrow. Why? Because unpaid labor is the backbone of capitalism. Women are the safety net for failing systems. The healthcare system, it's our women who care for aging parents, sick children, and whoever else needs assistance. The mental health system, it's our women who provide emotional support and stability, women who provide the emotional triage. The education system, it's our women who teach with love the life skills our future generations need. Women fill in the gaps. And if you're a man filling in the gaps with unpaid labor, then this includes you too. Not only are women expected to offer up their tithing of free labor to the altar of capitalism, they're also expected to work full-time jobs because the system expects to be supported through the taxes they pay. Even if the women of this country are still paid, oftentimes, significantly less than men. Not only are they paying taxes to support a system that's sucking them dry, they're also expected to pay the village for the services they no longer have time to do themselves. Having women in the full-time workforce has broken down the family, which in turn has broken down the village support system. Women who aren't at home raising their children are forced to let the government indoctrinate those children through the school system. This systemic dysfunction is all interconnected. And the dysfunction stemming from capitalism is rooted in the unpaid labor force that has sustained it at the cost of itself. Kind of reminds me of an Ouroboros. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's the snake eating its own tail. It's eating itself. And let me add that women, especially unmarried or single women, are charged more for services, if that makes sense to anyone. Test it for yourself. Try pricing insurance coverage, for example, and compare the premium prices for married status versus unmarried status and see for yourself. Religion is no refuge for women either, in my humble opinion. Sorry, ladies, if this ruffles a few devoted feathers. I have yet to come across an organized religious belief system that values the feminine as it should. Most have relegated the female to subservient or submissive status, to the status of unpaid labor, I think. And this religious programming has contributed heavily to the perpetuation of capitalism. Capitalism cannot succeed without unpaid labor, which seems as ironic to me as it might seem to you, since the word itself, capitalism, is completely money centric. Capital, of course, meaning money. There's nothing in the business model that says free anything. Yet the unpaid free labor that sustains it has to come from somewhere. And as long as I've been alive, the historical providers of that unpaid labor, our women, are burning out and quietly quitting the game, which is clearly creating cracks in the economic foundation of this country. Between inflation and job losses alone, the economy is wobbly enough. Remove the foundation of unpaid labor from the equation, and it's anyone's guess how our economic business model will reset itself. But I don't see capitalism holding anything together or saving the day. The rug is being pulled out from under it as women pull back and become a force to be reckoned with. And you know what? All of this is making way for something new. So before I go, I'd like to leave you with a question to ponder, as I like to do. What do you think will replace capitalism when it's no longer a viable economic model? Please leave your comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts. So until next time, be well, choose love, and thank you. Thank you for listening. Goodbye for now.